when you are thinking about deploying a low latency solution, it is all about trade-offs. So there are trade-offs to be made. I'll show the next slide. So this is actually a fairly graphic overview that will tell you that if you want the lowest latency, your viewer experience or your scalability is going to suffer. If you prefer higher viewer experience, so more compute cycles in your encoder or a bigger client buffer, then your latency is going to suffer. So it's all about trade-offs. So first trade-off, a large chunk, so probably the two biggest contributors to latency in an end-to-end video production workflow are the time you spend in encoding and the size of the client buffer. And these traditionally were determined by the segment size. Now, chunked CMAF has used chunked packaging that allows you to push out partial content and deploy that over the CD and propagate all the way to the edge and already into the client player without it being fully complete at the final chunk of the segment. So this is what this low latency chunked transfer and chunked packaging is. But if you want to have a very low latency, you're going to set your encoder settings to real time or near real time, and then either your visual quality is going to suffer or you don't achieve such a good compression, which is bad for your bandwidth. So that's something to consider. We see most of our customers prefer to go with a better quality experience. Certainly for stuff like sports streaming, you don't want to watch a crappy stream on a high-end service. So we see people spend quite some considerable time in encoding anyway. So second part where you need to make the trade-off is the size of your client buffer. So again, previously to chunked packaging, we needed to cache at least an entire segment. The Apple specification for HLS actually says that you need to cache at least 3.5 times the segment size. So on traditional 10-second segments, that was 35 seconds in the client buffer. Now for these low latency protocols, there is still a very considerable amount of the end-to-end latency that sits in the client buffer, especially, and I'll come to that in the next slide, because you need to assess when you need to make a quality switch. So, but however, using chunk transfer, using chunk encoding, or chunk packaging, the smaller chunks come in and your buffer is actually fairly predictable. And so we are, in a way, better able to maintain a smaller buffer size, but just by having chunk packaging and chunk transfer in there. So the third trade-off, that's your joint latency, or what you might compare to into traditional linear television, the time it takes when you click on your remote control and the next channel appears. So this is also in all streaming protocols, certainly segment-based streaming protocols, influenced by the size of your segment, because every segment needs to start with a keyframe or starts with a keyframe, and that's the point where you can pick into the stream. You cannot just randomly, even with chunk packaging, you cannot just randomly pick into that segment anywhere you want to. So you need to wait for a start of the segment. So you have a choice. If we are encoding part number 4, do I choose to wait for part number 5 and reduce my end-to-end latency, or do I already start playback at the 4th segment but incurring a larger latency? So if you have 6-second segments, you might incur an average of 3 seconds end-to-end additional latency. Now there are ways on how to combat that. So you might, strategies that we employ is we will start playing back the previous segment and just slightly increase playback rate to a level that's unnoticeable to viewers and catch up to the end-to-end latency. So it's a very useful technology to employ. If you're far out of the synchronization window, you might even choose to seek out. And on dedicated devices, native platforms, it might be even more useful to download that previous segment and do a fast decode without even showing the frames. So these are strategies that you can employ to reduce your end-to-end latency, but again, you need to make that choice about your segment size. So switch latency is very similar. Switch latency is the time it takes before when your player detects that he might play back a higher quality stream, so a higher resolution, a higher bit rate, and the time you're actually playing that. So why is that important? Because you need to figure out, so here we see that we might play a higher quality, but we still have some content back in that buffer. So what do we do with that content? Do we wait until that content is fully played out, or do we just trash it? So 2 of these segments, we trash them. and we play and start downloading the higher resolution already, that's a choice. Your bandwidth is going to suffer a little bit, but you need to maintain at least that active segment on which you are. So again, segment size is very important here.